Good evening to you and welcome to this program of Rodney Groundings. I'm your host, Dion Abrams, and as usual, my guest this evening is Brother Takuma Ogunse. And again, we'll be talking about current issues in the political, social, economic landscape of Guyana. I want to welcome you to the program, Brother Ogun.
It's good to be here again.
Uh, I'm happy I get a sense that the meeting at BV last week was one that was successful. The reports I got is that the people are going to take over the lands in the areas that are under contention. And so you want to big up Brother McCrae and the people of BV for taking a stand against those who are trying to appropriate what rightfully belongs to them. On the 7th, that's tomorrow, of course, we'll be recognizing villages and the contribution of the village to the life of Guyana is something that we cannot overlook. Of course, it was the bedrock of bringing together the modern Guyana, and so the people who would have been the cause, the agents who brought these villages into being, they should not be willy-nilly, in any kind of fashion, be dispossessed of their ancestral rights. All over the world, people take very serious action whenever attempts are made to transgress the rights of their ancestors and what would have been bequeathed to them. And so I'm hopeful that as a community, the people of BV are going to stand up and continue to resist this attempt by those the players who are involved, both from the NDC and from the John Finance entity that has set up this spurious Mohammed's and daughters or whatever it's called to try to find a way to, meander around the fact that they have done something wrong. Right? So, hail up the people of BV and keep that struggle going. It's a fight that you must win. There is no losing in this. I know for a fact that in instances, the whole of the back of Cummings Lodge there, that was owned by, I can't remember the guy's name, it's an Afro-Guyanese chap. But the PPP during their time, that was around 1997, 98, they wanted to take away the land from the man, and what they did, they encouraged their people to simply flood it with squatters. You understand? And so, despite whatever attempts he made, those lands have been lost to him because they've taken it over, right? And if it really means that, because you're not squatting, you're just occupying what rightfully belongs to you. So if that has to be the case, then occupy, all right? And let them come and try to bulldoze you. Show their true character in that regard, all right? Brother Hogan, what do you think?
I'm glad to hear that the meeting last Sunday, it was, I think, or Monday.
Sunday.
I think it was last Sunday
Uh-huh.
at BV. I'm glad to hear it was a success. And I want to join you with saluting Councillor Elton McCrae for the excellent work he has been doing in defense of those ancestral lands, in keeping the village and the wider African community and the country and the region and the world alert to the kind of hostile land grabbing that African communities are faced with under this present PPP regime. And land issues, we have to be very careful. Land issues in multi-ethnic societies, in fact, almost in any society, but particularly in multi-ethnic societies, become very, very inflammatory, you know. And we have to be careful, you know. But we have to do our part to alert our community and the country at large whenever these acts of aggressions are unfold in any African community. It is the duty of this program and the WPA as a party to come in defense of those victims.
Yeah, wonderful. So we're behind you, and we'll always be here to support you as you march forward in the quest to overthrow these attempts. Now, strange things are happening, you know. The Bar Association protested outside the SOPO headquarters, and I've listened to the comments from, I was very pleased to see K. Juman Yassin and some of the senior councils out there. But the disturbing thing is that the aggrieved party, the lawyer who was arrested, she is lamenting that she got no word from the police. She hasn't even received any kind of communication to suggest that maybe an expression of you know, saying that they're sorry, regret, or lamenting that the incident actually took place. How does the police operate in this way?
See, last week I think when we discussed the matter, I told you that in trying to understand exactly what played out, I found it hard to believe that it is simply a question of the police not knowing what is the proper behavior as it relates to the right of counsel to caution their clients and the right of clients to take the advice of their counsel. I mean, that is basic police ABCs.
Yeah.
And if as I hold the position that the officer involved, or all the officers, if it's more than one involved, must have known the basic engagement, the rules of engagement. Therefore, you have to look at something deeper to unfold what is really driving that behavior that led to the incident. And I had suggested that it is probably a manifestation of the triumphalism and the sense of PPP and Indian dominance that seems to have been grappling, you know, the police force and other government institutions, where, you know, actors in those institutions feel that they have a right to reflect the same political power that they read is being managed by their political leadership. And when one look at the way in which Nandalal handled the situation, one is hard pressed not to believe that somewhere along the line that officer or those officers have some connection with the PPP, which the PPP feels hell-bent to protect. You see, and I think that will explain why the police force is so reluctant to do the normal proper thing, to offer the victim, the sister counsel, you know, an apology, you know, which is the normal human and professional thing one who is managing a agency, find that his personnel is caught up in that kind of transgression, you would find it automatically easy to do that. That is the least you could do. But when that is not being done, you have to look for a context to explain it. And my gut feeling is those officers are some way tied up to the PPP and Nandalala and them Kobala, and they're defending. They feel that they have to defend the interest.
Yeah, but if you've been following the news and the events related to that same officer, he was the same person who, when Paul Slow came to go to court, the matter was already before the court. He came on the day to attend court, and he went to arrest the man at the court. You understand? And he is still in the same position and committing more transgressions.
Well, I didn't even know the officer. Tell you the truth, the name didn't rang a bell to me, and I didn't associate him with any other.
Well, it's the same man. Yeah.
The same. My analysis was correct. Man definitely has political contacts, and he believes that he's not only exercising police authority, but he's exercising political authority.
And that he's untouchable.
And he's untouchable. Right. So that's the problem. You
understand? So we have a real serious situation here, but the coming out of the Bar Association is laudable.
Yeah.
But the response of the Attorney General is again lamentable. What do you think about his?
First, they want to support the attorneys, the lawyers, to, come out in their numbers, over 50 of them. It's a bit unprecedented. I can't remember the last time seeing such a protest by the legal luminaries. The closest, I don't know. I don't want to risk calling a year because I may not be right. My brain's not getting it right. But it's a very long time. I can't really see, that kind of display of concern. And I think that, this program and the WPA is in full solidarity with them. We believe that they're not only defending, their own profession, but they're defending a very sacred principle, the rule of law, and the right for citizens to have, the right to legal defense. So that is the underlying issue here. And to see them coming out in the numbers, I was very heartened. You raise another...
the Attorney General's response.
He said he thought that after he made his intervention, the matter was water under the table. I mean, it is interesting to try to follow, his logic and his mindset. You faced with a gross, unprecedented violation of a council right and the whole legal fraternity which he's a part, and he knows very well what are the underlying principles involved here
and the implications of the actions of the police.
And he is saying that once he intervened in a cold, lukewarm way in which he intervened, that is enough for everybody to shut their mouth and to behave like the incident never happened. I mean, it is a reflection of the power-drunk nature of these chaps, So once I speak and I say it's over, it's over. Yeah. And the fact that you people decide to come out in protest, you got some agenda.
Some hidden political agenda.
Hidden political agenda, You see, but see, that is the manifestation of the parent confidence. They believe, if people like Nandalal and PPP and Jack Dio and them believe, okay, they have in this equation that they could do almost anything and get away with it. It is a level of political craziness because that is all going to bring them down, because they're reaching gradually to a point where they're losing it. They're not making rational political decisions, and dealing with matters based upon the importance and the justness of the situation and the responsibleness a government has in the equation when it comes to certain fundamental issues. For them, no. Party and loyalty to the party is more important. Whoever violate the law, whoever violate professional behavior, once they're on our side, the power of the party and the government, and by extension the state, will protect them. Because that's very important for the PPP.
Mm.
It's not very important for the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of a. It's really not nice because if we remember the youngs who were shot at Golden Grove, we're not hearing anything about the case. We're not even aware of where the police officer who is supposed to be in prison, whether he's there or not, because the word is that he's already out on the street, that he's home and so on. So we need information to know, because you see, we pointed out on several programs that too was an orchestrated agenda by agents of the PPP working through the police, and their plan was to eliminate the former, the ex-young military men who were Afro-Guyanese and who were in their communities performing their normal, going about their normal lives, and because they were setting up for disbanding any level of resistance. We have not heard so far any more from that clique that they had established. We don't know if it's still functioning with the agents who are involved, but then we don't even know where the youngster is who was supposedly charged with the offense. All right. So all of these things point to a government that is, as you were saying, they're reaching a level of madness, and the paranoia is driving them and the people whom they've put in positions to believe that it's, yeah, they can do whatever they feel like and get away with it, right? But people have to push back, and the lawyers have pushed back. They have not commented on the Jamaicans, but local people have stood up, raised their voices, and it's a political thing. How does the Jamaican release factor into this political thing that they're talking about? The agenda, the hidden agenda. You see?
It's only they could explain.
They can
They could explain. They could explain.
They can explain. Why you wouldn't challenge the Jamaicans? You understand? Because he knows, I mean, the world over would see this as totally outrageous. But madness, if madness be their downfall, then let it be.
Saying,
yeah.
who the gods seek to destroy the
force makes man. All right. So we have now an election commission of inquiry started. I have not really been following it. Maybe you have. What are your thoughts on the inquiry itself and what has been happening?
I haven't been following it in a dedicated way because I'm very contemptuous of it.
Yep.
But I think that the aspect of it, I think we would want to discuss, and I'm really concerned, is to make the point that this is a very expensive
Undertaking.
On the behalf of the PPP, just to allow them to promote their propaganda, about the elections and attempts to rig the elections. It is not an attempt to correct anything, I mean, we have said even before the elections results was known that the elections had a lot of controversy and crisis, and it is not an elections that reached the standard of acceptability, and it should not have led to a winner, and that there should be some political solution. I raise that to make the point that we are not against an investigation into what took place in the 2020 elections. What we as a party and as a program is against. We are against a one-sided, one side who is involved in the contest, deciding that they will have this inquiry, they fix the rules, and they dominate everything, and in that way, the inquiry can't be of any significant value to the Guyanese nation. Because it's already tainted.
The independence
it has no independence. Independence. And if you really want, if the people really wanted to enlighten the nation as to what took place in an honest way, and if they really wanted to create a kind of consensus in the body politic that could guarantee that we don't have a repeat of that, then you had to work for all the stakeholders who are involved in the elections, coming to a point of recognizing that the thing had problems, and as a nation, we think we could do better, and we will have this inquiry to demonstrate to us what went wrong, and then we develop a collective agreement that we have to do better. It shouldn't happen again. But this is not what they're interested in. They're interested to point their finger in the direction of the APMU and to ignore all the evidence related to PPP's transgression that took place, on election day. And their emphasis is what took place after election day, particularly in Region 4. So in that sense, it's a waste, in my view, it's a waste of taxpayers' money. It will do more to divide the country than to unite the country. And it is not intended to improve the political culture of the country, but it's to give the PPP a weapon that they're able to use coming up to the local government elections and going right on to the next general elections.
That is to put in place schemes that they want to have, under the pretext that it's going to prevent the recurrence of, when in fact it's enhancing their own ability to steal the election as they would have been involved in. And the agent for that is one of the major persons who has been accused of being involved in acts of rigging, right? Especially in the Lusignan and these areas. And he is the one pontificating a whole lot about, the righteousness of these things that, he is doing. I'm talking about the Attorney General. And so he's now trying to change laws to have inquiries and all these things. When in fact we know that for years the PPP has been, we had to, during the elections, we had to go to Strathspey, because the guys, a house opposite the primary school, they were just coming out of the polling booth, going in there, changing their jerseys, and heading back to the polling station. We had to go and close down that operation, right? And this is something that is not peculiar to that location alone. You understand what happened in Enterprise and all the other areas where they felt like they did in Strathspey, that they had the control and the domination to do that, right? But, the APNU is going to be made to look as though, to make them a scapegoat in the old scenario. So, unless we have, as you were saying, a real effort at bringing all the agents together to ensure that we really want something that is going to prevent these nasty scenarios from taking place. It's only a kind of shenanigan and playing around to hide and to cloud their own behavior. Look at the the list that we're trying so hard to have change to reflect the true voting population of this country. All right? And now Jagdeo, prior to the elections, he was shouting that he needed a list that was clean and lean and so on. Now after the elections, when they're back in the driving seat, he is saying that he's not willing to do anything that would be going against the Constitution and the laws of Guyana. Right? So how could it be that before you wanted that same, what you were seeing now as a transgression to take place, but now that you have the power to make a difference and to ensure that it happens, you are saying that you're not going to do it because the Constitution does not allow it?
No, but the government has could change legislation. You could go to Parliament and change
that is
the
what I'm
particular
saying. Right.
area of the Constitution, and I'm sure you will get the full cooperation of all the political parties in the Parliament. But they don't want to do that because that padded list, that bloated list, their rigging machinery over the years have been synchronized with that list, and they have mastered how to, get their own way based on that list. So they're not interested to remove it. But what I'm more concerned on is the apparent inability of the opposition to wage the kind of struggle to force them to abandon that list. I mean, we will probably got at some point have a special program to deal with those matters. But I mean, that is the issue. Now the PP agenda, we know the PP agenda. But it's the opposition who have to frustrate the PP's agenda. And I don't know. I mean, the electoral list is so important to transparent elections and free elections that any serious and self-respecting opposition will know. On this matter, we got to dig our feet in the sand and do whatever it is necessary to get it fixed. That have to be a political priority because of the consequences it has for you going down the road.
But that is why, when I'm concerned about the planned local government elections, because so far we have no definitive position, and this is not a WPA point, this is my personal point of view, in terms of whether these parties are going to go to the elections or not. Our disaster and our downfall basically lie in the fact that there can be at no point a locking of heads in determining and deciding definitively that this thing is not right and we will not be a part of it, so that it leaves the PPP now in the open, and for the world to see that they are willing to move ahead in spite of the rejection of their own agenda. You always have at the last minute some political party or something jumping on board and saying, okay, in spite of the odds, we are going to take part. But once you do that, you legitimize the process. And it doesn't make sense arguing afterwards, right? And so I am getting a sense that we are going to be heading down that same road again with these local government elections.
I'm trying to be a little more optimistic.
You are.
And hoping that better sense prevailed. But we will have enough time to revisit this issue. But of course, you're quite right. This is a serious issue.
Yeah, it is.
A very serious issue. But I'm being optimistic. At my age, sometimes you got to resort to optimism. Okay. And hope that, because if you don't, it can be extremely frustrating,
It can be
extremely frustrating. The obvious, to some people, end up being what it is not.
I can't remember us having taken a stand in that regard. Even during, this is a historical thing, Hogan. It's historical, and It's
I don't want to throw cold. You're forcing me to throw cold water on the optimism. But I think I want to leave this program this afternoon on a particular matter of little optimism. Let me see
All right,
how it unfolds in another
I am betting my bottom dollar that somebody, some party or some, if not, the PPP will throw up parties.
I'd rather they do that.
Right?
I'd rather
That's
people
it.
throw parties.
That's better. But the major forces should
Anyway,
come out and say that they're not going to be part of it.
I will try to be
Right.
optimistic.
All right, I am looking at your optimism with a dim view. My glasses are clouded. I can't see that far. Right? So the Ashley Singh, the elections are, we're going to see what unfolds, right? But I wanted, Ashley Singh is throwing cold water on the World Bank report, saying that it's a 2019 report and that the World Bank has to update their figures to reflect the true position of the economy, the true state of the economy. Is he telling the truth, or is this 48% that they're talking about our current reality?
I really don't think that I'm qualified. First thing, I haven't read the report,
Yeah.
and I'm engaging it from what is in
You've
the
heard
news.
in the news. Yeah.
Okay, and I am not
An
an economist.
Of course, I know.
I guess with another, day or two, Brother Thomas, Clive Thomas, would probably,
Right, something about that.
look at it
Mhm.
and to say something, and it will give us, as a party and as a nation, clarity on it. I know it was a damning report, and I'm not surprised that the government will quickly try to underplay it. I'm not going to take the position that the World Bank is always correct in everything that they do, but I think that you could be sure that they're onto something, and they would not be very far off from what is the actual reality in the situation in the country. But I on this matter would be guided by my own sense of the various reports that we're getting from all areas of the country, particularly among the poor people, the poor and the powerless, that people are definitely under serious economic deprivation, and the ability to earn for most persons are not significant, and the tremendous wealth that is being spent in the last 2 years coming from the oil have not trickled down to ordinary people. And it would not be surprising that the IDB report, the World Bank report, in fact, reflects and captures the reality. But I'm not surprised that Ashley Singh would try to give a different spin. But I will be guided on this matter, by Brother Thomas, when he says something on it. But my own gut feelings, it reflects the objective reality on the ground in Guyana. And there's a tremendous amount of Guyanese working people, poor people, who are not earning any significant income, that they can't maintain themselves and their family. And I think that reality is what is captured by the World Bank report. Whether it is 48% or 40% or 35% is a significant number.
Yeah, but I was reading the other day, I can't remember the writer of the article, I think it was a British guy, who is claiming that the Dutch disease has already hit Guyana, but these things seem to be falling on deaf ears in terms of the likes of Jack View and Ashley Singh and so on. As you were saying, that they're believing that these stopgap measures are trying to win support by putting a little money here into people's pockets, a little pittance, when the hog of the wealth is being placed into the hands of those who already have, that it's going to somehow favor their agenda to make people believe that they're interested in their welfare. But you know, when you look at you understand the nature of the politics of this country when you look at the news and you see the comments, because some of when these things happen, the reporters would go and interview people, and you see a clear division in terms of the views of Afro-Guyanese as against those of Indo-Guyanese. You get a sense of that the Indians believe that they have to support, regardless of how they feel, the positions of the PPP. But the Afro-Guyanese are willing to speak to their feelings and to their experiences. But when you go to the market and you have conversations and you listen to the discussions among the people selling in the various stalls, these various people who are on television going to be saying that it's good, it's nice, and everything is hunky-dory and so on. And you listen to their discussions, you understand that they too are hurting and that they're feeling the pangs of the pains of want, you know, of neglect, of suffering, and of being out of pocket. All right. It's sad that they don't feel emboldened, except in maybe one or two instances where you have to express their feelings so that the administration can really know what people are going through at the level of the ordinary folks in the society. It's really a sad thing, and I don't know, but with all of the increases in prices, you're giving people a little $10,000 or $20,000 or $28,000, and you are not really making real income that is going to be continuous, you know, available to the people who have to live. I heard one woman actually saying, you know, in terms of the $28,000 for the pension, you know, what this could do for me. As soon as you go to the market, it's done. All right? And she actually told the reporter to get out of her face. It didn't make any sense. You understand? But people who have to live and have to deal with the prices in the market, they are the ones who can tell you their experiences. Right? When the money has to come out of their pockets, right? As a pensioner, I mean, $28,000. What does that do for you when it's going to come now and then you still have a year or 6 months to continue living before they decide that maybe they're going to give you another top up somewhere or somewhere. Okay.
You see, ethnic loyalty, you know, that's a problem of Guyanese society. That ethnic insecurity, where people feel that their security lies in maintaining in government their ethnic party, they deliberately, you know, close the eyes and pretend that everything is, you know, good. But you know, objective reality is objective reality. If you're not earning enough money to deal with the prices in the marketplace and the shops, regardless of your loyalty, your belly gonna bite.
Yep.
You know, and so you have that contradiction, where on the one hand, you're willing to be Banwari, bear your chair for the party, you know, but at the same time, you got to deal with biology, you know, when the belly start to bite and so forth, you know. But the truth of the matter is that that kind of behavior is easier to maintain when the society as a whole is not fighting back.
Okay.
But it's as soon as the society, sections of the society begin to fight back, even in the most committed supporters of the system or the government, you will begin to see cracks. Because at the end of the day, they want a better deal. But as things are, when nothing is happening, they will not be interested in going out there to identify themselves as quote unquote be the troublemakers. But deep down in the inside, they're hoping that something happen that will change the reality for them. So once you start to get movement on these matters and the society begin to fight back, you will find the chances to have wider solidarity become greater than at these moments where there's no significant pushback. And that is why I'm so concerned with the opposition of the unions, all the public sector workers unions. They have to push back. They can't continue to see the regime deliberately, driving their support base and their membership to poverty and don't fight back.
Yeah.
You just have to fight back. There comes a point in time in politics and in trade union behavior. Watch all I see in British trade union, the teachers, the nurses, all over Europe, workers are pushing back against the high cost of living, and inflation. And I don't know what is wrong with Guyanese workers. At what point would you push back?
Yeah.
You got to push back now.
And we're talking about inflation kicking at 15 and 16%. And I'm hearing now, that the plan is to give another 8% this year, from 7 to 8 to the public servants, right? That is their what they have in store. So there is no real plan.
There's a plan. Keep them,
keep
them in poverty.
Yeah, but plan to take people out of poverty. So that is their agenda, to keep you in.
The PPP is convinced that they're on a political line of march as it relates to the African community, is that they have historical scores to settle, and they're going to drive the African community in the ground and force us on our knees to go to Freedom House and with our begging bowls and beg. That is the design they have for us as a community. And I'm appalled that our leaders are not seeing the obvious, and can't comprehend
that they need to fight
a
back.
line of march to correct this matter. That is the sad thing. I mean, you don't have to be any great political scientist to understand what PP is about.
Yeah. But it's a tragedy, yeah. But like you were saying, you're not even hearing the unions at all. I mean, you're not hearing anything from them at all. I mean, it's as though they're not existing, that they've all fallen through the cracks. There's some hole in the earth has opened up and swallowed them. So we're hearing nothing from them, right? But this agenda, I mean, we have to push against it. We have to fight against it. And people cannot continue to be comfortable living the way they're living, when in fact they know that the monies are coming and that it's only being fed to people who are closely aligned to the PPP and who are already having and not in want. And the ordinary people are being pushed deeper and deeper into the ground. Resistance should be the order of the day, and I'm hopeful that it will get to that point, politically or through the unions, that there will be a rising up of people, like in France and all the countries. And
almost every day you could pick up in the news.
People
all
are
around the world,
rising
workers
up
are fighting
against
up against the inflationary
high
pressures
cost of
and
living.
the living standards.
And we're just sitting and taking it. It's really, really sad. It's really, really sad. You know, but I mean, striking, back to that. If we are 48%, living below the poverty line, what does that tell us? It tells us that almost half of the
Population is in serious
is in
straits.
serious crisis. So why is it that we are so dormant, so docile, so?
It's a question of lack of leadership. I mean, I must say it. You see,
Mhm.
Guyanese society, unfortunately, the political parties that dominate the political scene for the last 50 years have really done a great disservice to the people
Okay.
by stripping them of the capacity for independent action. So the people depend heavily on the party to call the shots, and they're going to follow, and they're going to take the lead. So when the party, for whatever reason, is not
doing
calling
it.
the shots, the people left, a bit helpless. They're not sure what to do. They're just hoping against hope that the party will get it right,
Okay.
you know.
But one of the things we're talking so much about oil, and we're not even looking at what is happening in the gold industry and in the timber industry and so on. We are getting monies, from all sources.
Yeah,
And
money is not a problem with President
Right.
Guyana. Money, we got such money that we using some of it. So it's not our question. We live with some of them in the fund. So money is not the issue. The issue is proper use of what we get in and equitable distribution on the basis of both race and class. That is the challenge, and that will continue to be the challenge going forward as we get more and more oil revenues.
Okay.
You know, and and Guyanese we have to make up our minds. We got to make up our minds whether we're going to allow ourselves to unnecessarily languish in poverty and despairs, or are we going to shake up things and resolve this problem? And I'm telling you, it could be resolved very quickly. Could be resolved very quickly, because I'm telling you, those in power don't want to lose power. They don't want to lose power. At present, we work with all the oil money around, and they will quickly make the necessary compromise to improve people's living standards. But the thing about the PVP, which I'll give them credit, when they're very deliberate in the political line of march, and they know that the whole philosophy is not to make compromises when you don't have to. You keep those things for when you have to. So for the PPP, they're looking at this situation. We know we got to get them workers a better deal. But until they could demand it, we are not going to give them a better deal. So when they demand it, we give them, we really give them nothing, because that is the contempt that they have for people. And that is what drives their politics. And they see that political smartness, that be smart in them. And the workers and the leaders got to come to scratch. And they're not doing that. And that's why the PPP is holding, the country to ransom.
It's tragic, and we can only hope, like you did say, that the agents who can cause this needed upheaval, that they will can see the need to do so that people can begin to take actions in their own interests, and let those who believe that they can hold them in this state of wanting, and that they have to do something to change that. All right, we have a few minutes more, but I received a WhatsApp from the Rastafarian community, and they're protesting the administration's bill that is to be taken to Parliament, raising concerns about what they're calling a draconian government bill that doesn't do a number of things. Have you been following this discussion and the laws.
To some extent, because I read it, in the papers, in the Moraro Wave, so to some extent. I mean, I was glad to hear that the bill is moving from the select committee to the parliament, but I didn't, since I've never seen the bill and I don't know the details of the bill, but I remember on this program you have warned the Rastafarian comrades that the high expectations that they had, that the PPP will deliver something of significance to them, would not happen. And when I read that they're protesting and they're dissatisfied on many measures, one of the important things, because the bill doesn't decriminalize the use and the possession of marijuana. And my mind run right to you and this program, where you went out of pains at least more than once, warning them.
Yeah, I remember one leader of the group saying, actually chastising the APNU for not, they didn't do it, and so they're lauding Nandalal and so on. But what they're saying from what they've put out there Monday, the 7th of November 22, at the Archichong Convention Center, they're having a gathering to protest the draconian government bill that doesn't address and doesn't recognize the use of cannabis as a part of the religion of Rastafari. It doesn't grant amnesty for those already in prison for small amounts. It doesn't grant access for medicinal use of marijuana. It doesn't expunge the criminal records of those previously charged for cannabis, and it doesn't allow users to plant their supply in the privacy of their homes. My major concern here is they will fine the users $250,000 plus 3 years in prison for failing or refusing to do counseling or community service. Right? So these are their concerns, right? Which doesn't take us far away from what already exists. So the bill hasn't gone anywhere close to changing the nature of the current bill. So their triumphant feeling is now basically,
the political reality hit home.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you're fighting their cause.
Mm-hmm.
You see, it is in the struggle. When we could have probably predict and tell them, as you did, that look, the PP going to Kakyal, and you'll have a ding dang argument with them. But I have learned in these matters, the reality speaks for itself. So now that they have seen and experienced the PPP behavior, you don't have to tell them anything. They themselves have come to that level of consciousness that you and I had foreseen, months down the road, that thing will happen the way they want it to happen. But you say, experience is the best teacher, and people learn more, both individually and collectively as a community, as they engage in struggle on their own behalf. They get the process of struggle clarifies their vision and their consciousness, and that's what's happening there.
But you see, their consciousness, they should have known that in the scheme of things, because I interact with some of these guys, they understand that the marijuana situation, the people who are in prison for it, when you're in jail you can't vote, you understand, and the more young people of African origin that can be put in the prisons, it's the more people you're taking out of the equation in terms of the electoral scenario in this country. And despite Nandalal's, mouthing a whole lot of things, I remember them approaching him when he was right outside the AG's chambers when they were protesting, and giving them assurances that they are not going to bend over in any serious way to the Rastafarian community, particularly because of who they are, in fact. All right. I mean, I have seen uh, Indian Rastafari. I've seen Portuguese and other Rastafari, but the majority of them are from the African community. And giving in to them in that way is not something that fits into the PPP's agenda. And so their enthusiasm and their glee and their, feeling that they can chastise the APNU for not doing now what the PPP is going to do for us. Uh, their reality is here with them, right?
That's why I'm saying that experience is the best teacher.
Yeah. Well,
And you or I or others would have told them that 6 months ago or a year ago. A lot of them may not be able to see it,
because their lack of understanding of the PPP.
Well, that's partly, but you got to understand how people behave. You see, human beings by nature, okay, like to have progress. And if somebody seems to be offering them progress, as they define progress, because it got to be their definition of progress, they're more likely to give you the benefit of the doubt, because what you're offering coincides
With what their vision of
what their vision or what they need. So when somebody come and say, boy, we are think y'all gonna get, they can't see it. Not that they may not know that you're likely to be right, but psychologically they find comfort in the belief that this engagement may give us what we expect, and they give it the benefit of the doubt.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a complex psychological. The psychologist may be more helpful to you than I, but I'm telling you, that's what played out there. But when they go and get the experience, you don't have to argue no more. But the thing about that, they become more vicious than me and you, who could have seen and anticipated it.
Okay.
When the reality hit them, they become more anti than me, because we are making some clear perceptions that is influenced by experience and knowledge of the PPP, and not driven by convenience.
Yeah, but the PPP, I mean, if you look, they're going to fashion and the hemp industry. I mean, people are happy that the hemp, and they were thinking that because the government is going in the direction of hemp, that they're going to go in the same direction with marijuana. But the hemp industry is going to be so tailored that again it's going to target
it could be another Indian-dominated agricultural sector.
Right. All right, and even the rich.
Because that's how the people organize these things.
Well, so this marijuana, which they see as a black people thing, it's not. It's not.
It will go nowhere.
It's not going to go anywhere. My brothers, I empathize with you, and I'm hopeful that your protest will bring you success. But you can't say that we didn't warn you about it. All right. So let's hope
but
that
the protest is important to energize their resistance.
yes,
Success may come lay down the road. Too often we get caught up with success.
I know.
Before you win the cricket match, you can make the runs. You got both the other side out. So, but we need the protest to re-energize their resistance, because they get a knock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, what was the AG's response to their Rastafarian?
He said
It's a delicate
balance, a fancy language, delicate balance.
So
But he didn't explain
what a delicate
balance
what a
is
delicate
about,
balance is.
Leave it to guess.
I know. Well, I know, but time is on us, and I am hopeful that the PPP, if indeed they're planning to give 8%, but I mean, there is no, I mean, we should begin to raise our voices from now.
I don't want to hear about 8%.
You know?
If the public sector workers can't put an end to this nonsense, you know, that they can't fight to win back collective bargaining, something wrong with them, you know. I mean, I don't want to sound, because I'm not anti-worker. I mean, I'm so much with them. I'm with them to the point where vexed with them,
Yeah.
you know. But again, you know, at the end of the day, they are in the workforce. I'm a pensioner. You know, they're in the workforce, you know. And as we began on the question of pension, I must raise this point because a lot of pensioners have asked me to raise it. That there a lot of people have not received their pension books. You know, the government have tied the
Pension.
renewing of the pension books for the next year to the 1 a month
Okay.
cash transfer. So they had advertised a number of places where persons, you know, in the communities could go and do the transaction, and you get both the renew book and then you collect your $28,000. A lot of people have not been able to find some of the places where in the communities where they ought to have gone. So there's a large number of persons out there who are not clear as to what will happen now, because the way in which they design the program is, let us say for Sapphire, let us say they put aside 2 days for the activity in Sapphire. They name a spot or spots. If you miss those 2 days, you're not certain what will happen.
Okay.
You know, and I think that is creating a lot of concerns among pensioners.
Well, the
And we
government.
have asked, you know, that we draw this, you know, to the authorities' attention, you know.
Well, they need to come out with some information to guide people in terms of those who might not have been able to make those 2 days, in terms of what lies ahead, how they can access their books and so on. I know for a fact that they have not been giving books to people who went on behalf of others. They're saying that the person must present him or herself. Otherwise, you give an address, and that they're going to take the book and the grant to the person's home. I don't know how, because that movement, the process of taking the stuff to the people's homes, I'm not aware that it has begun. But with people who are mobile and who might have missed that there too, I don't know what the way forward for them in accessing the grant and getting their pension books. So hopefully some public statement or some guidance can be given to those pensioners who are in those areas, giving them information on what needs to be done, what is going to happen, so that they can access both the grant and the books for the new year. All right? Anyway, it's been a pleasure again being with you, Brother Ogun, and being with you, the people out there who sit up to wait for us on these Sunday evenings. And I want to say that it's been a pleasure being with you, and that we will be here next week, same time, same channel, for another program of Walter Rodney Groundings. You have a good night.
We must stand strong. People rise up, oh, fly.